She rushed into the flames to rescue a child, but an overheard conversation outside would make her doubt everything. "Clarissa, you'll be running behind schedule." Her mother's call drifted from their cramped apartment's small kitchen, though Clarissa Johnson had already stepped outside, balancing her packed lunch and vehicle keys. Columbus, Ohio's dawn carried that humid heat that left you perspiring before reaching your automobile. She cast a backward glance at the damaged apartment entrance before descending the weathered stairway. Within their home, Marcus, her 8-year-old boy, sat with crossed legs on the ground, cereal bowl resting in his lap while animated shows played on their age television. "Behave yourself for grandmother, sweetheart," she whispered gently, receiving a wave without his eyes leaving the screen. Each morning brought identical struggles. Rise early, ensure Marcus's well-being, prepare meals, then drive half an hour through the city to clean floors and dust belongings that likely exceeded her entire dwelling's value. House cleaning had become her occupation since Marcus's birth because quality childcare demanded payment. Men had made promises before disappearing like vapor. Her destination today was the Whitmore property, an estate large enough to contain 10 apartment complexes like Hayes while leaving space for a pool. This family represented what her community termed generational wealth. Staff rarely received conversation except from Mrs. Whitmore, who demanded perfection but seldom expressed gratitude. Her aging Toyota found its place at the mansion's service entrance. Despite previous visits, the property's magnitude still caused stomach tension. Ivory pillars, gleaming stone, and an endless driveway created more than mere affluence, an entirely separate reality. She smoothed her second-hand blouse's creases and secured her braids in a tidy knot. Other employees had already arrived. 2 kitchen staff, 1 groundskeeper, and another cleaner with limited English. After signing the attendance sheet, hanging her coat, and donning her personalized apron, she prepared for work. "Good morning, Clarissa," called a cook from the kitchen area. "The dining room requires your attention today." "Understood," she responded with a smile, though her feet already protested, anticipating endless sweeping and polishing. Moving through the impressive entrance hall, her tennis shoes squeaked against marble surfaces. Natural light poured through windows spanning 2 floors while paintings in golden frames observed from above. Generations of Whitmore ancestors gazed down in silent judgment as she passed family portraits beside the staircase. Mr. Whitmore appeared in one photograph wearing a perfectly fitted suit with a severe expression, while another showed his wife adorned in pearls with a barely warm smile. Then came the young boy, James, age 7, dressed like royalty in a jacket and khakis. His fair complexion, perfectly combed blonde hair, and practiced smile created an image she remembered from a previous encounter when he raced through corridors while his caregiver pursued him. Though she enjoyed children's company, something about this boy suggested loneliness. Setting her cleaning bucket in the dining area, she began polishing the extensive mahogany surface. Lemon cleaner's aroma filled the space as she worked silently, mind wandering. Marcus needed field trip money tomorrow, leaving her $20 short. Solutions would present themselves as they always did. Her phone's vibration brought her mother's message. "Remember milk on your return trip." Another task joined her mental list, unaware that her current concerns would soon become insignificant. 10 minutes later, approaching the kitchen for hot water to refresh her cloth, she heard it, a thunderous sound that shook the foundation beneath her feet, followed by screaming. What awaited beyond that kitchen door would completely upend her world. The explosion rattled walls like an earthquake. Momentary paralysis seized Clarissa before instinct propelled her forward. Abandoning her cloth, she ran toward the kitchen. Smoke struck first, a suffocating dark wave rolling through the entrance, stinging her eyes and clawing her throat. Beyond the haze, cookware crashed while panicked voices shouted over chaos. "What's happening?" Clarissa coughed, pulling her apron over her nose. A cook stumbled past, clutching a burned arm with terror-filled eyes. "Gas explosion! Evacuate!" he screamed, rushing toward the exit without looking back. Clarissa's chest constricted. A gas leak? Headlines flashed through her mind. House explosions, instant fatalities. She turned to follow when she heard it. A small, muffled cry floating from above, faint but unmistakable. A child's voice. Her head snapped toward the grand staircase, stomach plummeting. James, the portrait boy, the Whitmore's sole heir. Someone rescue the child, she yelled, but other staff had fled to safety, doors slamming behind them. Nobody would return. The cry repeated, more desperate now. Without thinking, Clarissa moved. Boots thundered across marble as lungs burned from thickening smoke. She charged up the staircase, taking 2 steps simultaneously. Heat pursued her, licking walls while glass shattered below with sharp pops. "James," she called, voice breaking. "Where are you?" Another cry. Closer. Left hallway. She threw open doors. Empty, empty. Then found him. The boy cowered in his room's corner, hands covering ears, tears streaming down soot-stained cheeks. A fallen ceiling beam pinned his blazer's edge, blocking escape while fire crept along carpet, spitting sparks. "Sweet Jesus," Clarissa whispered, then louder, "James, stay still." His head lifted, eyes wild with terror. "It's burning," he sobbed. "I can't move." "You can, baby. Focus on me." Dropping to her knees, she grasped the beam, fingers screaming as rough would bit her palms. Immovable. Sweat stung her eyes. Through gritted teeth, she pushed harder. Still nothing. Flames hissed closer as curtains caught fire, curling in orange tongues. Smoke swirled like a living entity around them. Clarissa's breathing became ragged gasps. Marcus's morning smile and wave flashed through her mind. This boy couldn't die here. With a guttural cry, she heaved the beam one final time, using every ounce of strength. It shifted just enough. "Crawl out now," she commanded. James scrambled free, coughing and choking. She grabbed his arm, pulling him close. "Hold tight to me." He clung to her neck desperately as she struggled upright. Heat pressed from all directions, eyes burning, air like knives in her lungs. She stumbled into the hallway, clutching the boy tightly, legs trembling as floors groaned under their weight. Behind them, ceiling cracked with deafening snaps, debris raining down, striking her shoulders and tangling in her hair. Downstairs, the only thought pounding in her skull. Down, down, down. Escape. Vision blurred with spots dancing in gray smoke, but she never stopped. Then daylight, glorious daylight. She burst through the front entrance, collapsed to her knees in the driveway, and gulped fresh air like a drowning person. The boy remained in her arms, trembling, small hands gripping her shirt. Sirens wailed in the distance while neighbors gathered behind yellow tape. Phones raised like scavengers circling a story. Clarissa coughed so violently her chest felt ready to split, but she held the boy tighter, rocking him, whispering reassurances of safety. As screeching tires pierced the chaos, she looked up to see the Whitmore family's black sedan skidding to a halt. Their expressions weren't what she anticipated. Her arms still embraced the boy like her own child. Chest heaving as smoke billowed from the entrance behind her, flames consuming the Whitmore mansion like paper. Sirens grew louder, fire truck wails mixing with surrounding chaos, neighbors gasping, someone barking orders, sharp burning with stench filling her nostrils. The elegant black sedan screeched to a stop at the circular driveway's edge. Doors flew open. A tall man in crisp navy attire leaped out first, Mr. Whitmore. His loosened tie and pale complexion didn't show expected frantic gratitude or fatherly desperation, just cold calculation, eyes darting everywhere as if counting damages. Mrs. Whitmore emerged from the opposite side, heels clicking on pavement. Her pearl necklace gleamed in sunlight, but panic or something resembling it smeared her face. She rushed forward with a sharp cry, arms extended. "James, my precious boy." Clarissa hesitated momentarily before gently transferring the child to his mother's embrace. Mrs. Whitmore clutched him tightly, but Clarissa noticed the fleeting glance between spouses over the boy's head. Quick, loaded, suspicious, like a silent conversation she wasn't meant to witness. "Is he injured?" Mrs. Whitmore asked breathlessly, stroking the boy's hair. "He's shaken," Clarissa rasped, throat raw from smoke. "Some scratches, but he's fine." The woman's eyes flicked to Clarissa briefly, almost wanting to express gratitude, then didn't. Instead, she pressed her lips together and refocused on her son. Firefighters stormed past with hoses, shouting commands while two paramedics crouched beside Clarissa, wrapping an oxygen mask over her face. She accepted their help, too exhausted to argue, but kept watching that family. James buried his face in his mother's shoulder, coughing softly. Mr. Whitmore crouched beside them, hand gripping the boy's back. His jaw was tight, but not from relief. Clarissa recognized relief's appearance. This was something else. A paramedic tapped her arm. Remain still. Smoke inhalation poses dangers. I'm okay, Clarissa croaked, though her lungs burned. She lowered the mask. I just need to ensure he's all right. He's fine, came a sharp voice. Mr. Whitmore had turned now, standing tall, hands in pockets, gaze slicing through her, cool and controlled. We've handled it. Clarissa blinked. No warmth, no gratitude, just dismissal. Mrs. Whitmore shifted the boy in her arms. Clarissa, correct. Her tone was softer but carried an unidentifiable edge. You employed here? Yes, Clarissa said, voice trembling more than she preferred. I was just. He was upstairs, and I... Mrs. Whitmore interrupted with a tight smile. We value your quick thinking. That pause before quick thinking made the words taste bitter. Clarissa swallowed hard, nodding. She hadn't acted for thanks or expected celebration. Still, something about their tone sent chills through her bones despite heat radiating from the burning house. She looked back at James, seeking reassurance. The boy's blue eyes met hers for half a second, wide, frightened. Then his mother shifted him away. Behind them, fire roared, flames clawing at the sky like it wanted to devour everything. Clarissa drew a shaky breath and turned toward the fire truck, ready for questions, ready to go home and embrace Marcus like never before. But as she started walking, voices drifted toward her, low, urgent, coming from behind the Whitmore's car. 2 words, only 2, not whispered to her, not intended for her, but she heard them clearly. Not hers. Clarissa froze mid-step. Her heart gave a hard, painful thump. What did that mean? She turned slightly, pretending to adjust her oxygen mask, ears straining. Mr. Whitmore's voice again, clipped and sharp, buried under hose spray sounds. Not hers. Don't let her. Clarissa's stomach knotted. Pulse thundered in her ears. What weren't they saying? Who wasn't whose? And why did those 2 words make the smoke suddenly feel heavier in her lungs? Before she could move or even breathe, a black SUV arrived and a man in gray attire stepped out, talking rapidly into a phone. Every instinct told her this wasn't over. Sitting on an ambulance's back bumper, a scratchy gray blanket draped over her shoulders, her hands trembled, not from cold, but from the storm in her head. Sirens continued wailing, though softer now, blending with hoses drenching the mansion's remains. Smoke curved into blue sky like a dark question mark. She watched the Whitmores peripherally. Mrs. Whitmore still clutched James, whispering in his ear. The boy appeared pale, small fingers gripping his mother's pearl necklace so tightly it might snap. Mr. Whitmore stood apart, phone pressed to ear, posture steel rigid. Then there was the black SUV arrival, gray suit, polished shoes, briefcase in one hand, phone in the other. He spoke with Mr. Whitmore in quick bursts, too quiet to hear, but the body language screamed urgency that made her skin prickle. Miss, keep that on, a paramedic murmured, adjusting the oxygen mask. She nodded absently, eyes never leaving them. Not hers. Those 2 words replayed like a broken record. She'd heard strange things in wealthy homes before, money arguments, whispered affairs, but this felt different, darker. The gray-suited man turned, scanning the scene like assessing damage control. His gaze landed on her briefly, measured, cold. Then he looked away and continued talking. Clarissa's chest tightened. Why was a lawyer? Because that's what he had to be. Already here. The house still burned, and they called legal backup before smoke cleared. Mrs. Whitmore finally looked up, eyes meeting Clarissa's across the driveway. For a heartbeat, something flickered there. Gratitude maybe, or guilt. Then it vanished as she returned to her son, stroking his hair like posing for photographs. Clarissa wanted to look away, mind her business. That's what she'd always done. Clean up, stay quiet, go home. But those two words kept crawling under her skin like fire ants. Not hairs. She shifted on the bumper, hugging the blanket tighter. What did it mean? Was James adopted? That wasn't criminal. Many families adopted children. But if that was all, why the secrecy? Why the lawyer? Why did those words sound like warnings instead of facts? A firefighter walked by, helmet under his arm. "You saved that boy's life," he said with a nod, voice warm, cutting through her mental noise. Clarissa managed a weak smile. "Just did what anyone would do." "Not everyone would have run back in," he said, tipping his helmet before walking off. She stayed after him. His words should have felt good, heroic even. Instead, all she felt was that twisting knot in her gut, pulling tighter with every glance at the Whitmores and their shadowy lawyer. Mr. Whitmore snapped his phone shut and strode toward the SUV with long, clipped steps. The gray man followed, still murmuring into his earpiece. They stopped near the car, speaking in tones that made her skin crawl. Then she saw it, a quick flash of documentation in the man's hand, tucked into a leather folder before anyone else noticed. Clarissa's breath caught. Something was happening. Something they didn't want her or anyone to know. Her fingers gripped the blanket's edge until knuckles turned white. She could get up, walk away, pretend she never heard anything. But then James shifted in his mother's arms, his tear-streaked face lifting just enough for Clarissa to see those blue eyes staring straight at her. Pleading, silent. In that moment, Clarissa knew this wasn't something she could unhear. Before she could decide her next move, the gray man started walking toward her, polished shoes crunching on gravel with every step. Clarissa's heartbeat thundered as the gray-suited man approached. His stride was steady, confident, a man accustomed to controlling bad situations. Sunlight glinted off his silver tie clip as he stopped feet away. "Mrs. Johnson, correct." His voice was smooth, professional. Too smooth. Clarissa adjusted her blanket, trying to steady her breathing. "It's Ms.," she said quietly. "And yes." He offered a polite smile that never reached his eyes. "I wanted to thank you for your bravery today. Running back into that fire. That takes courage." Something about his delivery felt wrong, like reading from a script. Clarissa forced a small nod. "I didn't think. I just heard him crying." "Of course," the man replied, tilting his head slightly, studying her. "The Whitmores are very grateful, very relieved." Relieved? Clarissa almost laughed. If relief looked like ice running through someone's veins. "James is okay then?" she asked, glancing toward the boy still wrapped in his mother's arms. "He will be," the man said, slipping hands into pockets. "Children are resilient." He paused, gaze sharpening. "We'd appreciate if you didn't discuss today's events with anyone. Media loves stories like this, and the Whitmores value their privacy." There it was, the warning wrapped in velvet. Clarissa's fingers tightened around the blanket. "I wasn't planning to talk to anyone," she said carefully. "Good," the man replied smoothly. "Because sometimes things get misinterpreted, and that can cause problems for everyone involved." Before she could respond, a shadow fell over them. Mrs. Whitmore had approached, still holding James close. Her perfume hit first, something expensive and sharp. "Clarissa," she said softly, voice like silk stretched too thin. "We're thankful. Truly, you saved our son." Clarissa studied her face. Perfect makeup, not a single hair out of place, despite rushing from wherever she'd come from. But those eyes, those cold, glassy eyes, didn't match the words spilling from her lips. "I just did what anyone would have done," Clarissa murmured. Mrs. Whitmore smiled faintly, grip tightening around James' small shoulders. "Not everyone would have risked their life." The gray man cleared his throat softly, glancing at Mrs. Whitmore before turning back to Clarissa. "Someone from our office will contact you about compensation." A gesture of appreciation. Compensation. That word tasted bitter, like hush money. Clarissa opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her thoughts were a tangle of smoke and questions. Compensation for what? For saving a child or for keeping quiet about what she heard? The man gave a polite nod and stepped away, murmuring something into his earpiece as he walked back toward the SUV. Mrs. Whitmore lingered a second longer, eyes locked on Clarissa with something that looked almost like a warning. Then she turned sharply and followed him. Clarissa sat frozen, the weight of those two words pressing down like the beam she'd lifted minutes earlier. Not hers. She stared at James as he glanced back over his mother's shoulder. Just for a moment, their eyes met. His lips parted like he wanted to say something, but then the car door shut and he was gone. Clarissa sucked in a shaky breath, feeling oxygen burn her lungs. Questions clawed at her brain, loud and relentless. If he wasn't hers, whose was he? And what were they so desperate to hide? Before she could piece together a single answer, an officer approached with notepad, asking for his statement, and Clarissa realized this day was far from over. Sitting inside the ambulance's back, an oxygen mask dangling loosely in her lap, she had given her statement to the officer, a neat, factual version of events that omitted one very important detail. Those two words, not hers. The phrase gnawed at her like a splinter under skin, and despite telling herself to leave it alone, her gut wouldn't let her. She watched the Whitmores from a distance as final flames died under steady water spray. The family huddled near the black SUV with the gray man standing close, murmuring instructions like a conductor guiding an orchestra. Mrs. Whitmore kept her arm around James, but Clarissa noticed something. She wasn't holding him the way mothers do. Not how Clarissa held Marcus after nightmares. There was no instinctive rocking, no soul-deep whispers of comfort. Her stomach twisted. She was still watching when the gray man opened a folder and handed something to Mr. Whitmore. A thick envelope, sealed and crisp. Mr. Whitmore slid it into his jacket without hesitation. Money, lots of it. Clarissa didn't need to guess. Then, as if on cue, the man turned toward her again and started walking back. Her pulse jumped. She straightened, tucking the blanket tighter around her shoulders. Ms. Johnson, he said smoothly as he approached. You'll be relieved to know James is doing well. The family's taken him home to rest. Clarissa glanced toward the car, but it was gone. They'd left without even saying goodbye. The man adjusted his tie, expression neutral but firm. We've arranged something for you. He held out a plain white envelope. A token of gratitude for your heroism. Clarissa stated it. Fingers didn't move. I didn't do it for money, she said quietly. I'm sure you didn't, he replied, tone light but eyes like steel. But take it. It'll make things simpler. Her chest tightened. Simpler for who? A pause. His lips curved in a polite, humorless smile. For everyone. She took the envelope, not because she wanted to, but because his stare told her this wasn't a request. Her hand trembled as it closed around the paper. Good, he said softly. And Miss Johnson? She looked up. Discretion matters. With that, he walked away, slipping into the SUV like a shadow. Seconds later, the car rolled down the driveway and vanished behind the line of fire trucks. Clarissa sat frozen, the envelope burning in her hands. Her instinct screamed. This wasn't about gratitude. This was a warning dressed up in politeness. She slid her thumb under the flap and peeked inside. Bills, thick stacks of them, more money than she'd ever seen in her life. For the first time since carrying James out of that fire, fear crawled under her skin. Because people didn't pay this kind of money to say thank you. They paid it to buy silence. She shoved the envelope into her bag, heart pounding so hard she felt it in her throat. What were they hiding? Was James even their child? If not, then whose was he? And why did she suddenly feel like saving him had dropped her into something much bigger than a fire? Before she could find an answer, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. 5 words, enough to make her blood run cold. We need to talk tonight. Clarissa stared at the message glowing on her phone screen. We need to talk tonight. Her fingers hovered over the keypad, frozen. She didn't recognize the number, but deep down she already knew who it was. She typed back one word, where? The reply came almost instantly. Riverside Park, 9 p.m. Come alone. Every nerve in her body screamed to ignore it. Go home. Hug Marcus. Pretend today never happened. But something inside her, something stronger than fear, kept whispering. You heard those words for a reason. By the time street lights flickered on, Clarissa was pulling into the nearly empty park. Her old Toyota clicked and wheezed as it shut off. She scanned the shadows, heart pounding, and then she saw him standing near the benches by the river, his expensive gray suit catching the dim glow of a street lamp. The man in gray. Clarissa climbed out slowly, sneakers crunching on the gravel path. You said you wanted to talk, she said, voice tighter than intended. He nodded, hands in pockets. I did, because you need to understand something, Miss Johnson. She crossed her arms, fear mixing with anger now. I don't need your money. I need the truth. Why did you say those words? Not hers. Who are you talking about? His jaw tightened just for a second. Then he sighed like a man carrying a weight too heavy for even his polished shoes. James isn't biologically theirs. But that's not the issue. Clarissa's stomach dropped. Then what is? He looked her dead in the eye. That child was never supposed to be here. And if the wrong people find out where he is, they will take him. They'll tear this family apart. You saw how fast things can turn deadly. Clarissa stared, mind spinning. So you're saying someone's looking for him? Not someone, he said softly. People with power, money. People who don't care who they hurt to get what they want. She swallowed hard, voice barely a whisper. Then why hide the truth? Why pay me to stay quiet? If he's in danger, shouldn't. Because the Lord doesn't protect kids like him, the man cut in sharply. Not in cases like this. Clarissa gripped the bench behind her to steady herself. Her world tilted. Everything about that boy's frightened blue eyes made sense now. The man stepped closer, lowering his voice. You saved him once. Don't undo that by talking to anyone. If you care about him, about your own safety, you'll take the money and disappear from this. Clarissa stayed at him, pulse hammering. For a long moment, night was silent except for the river's ripple. Finally, she spoke. You think I can just forget I pulled a child out of a burning house? That I didn't see the fear in his face? That I didn't hear you say those words? His expression didn't change. I think you're smart enough to protect your son. Those last 3 words hit her like a punch. Marcus, her baby. Clarissa's chest ached as she walked back to her car. She didn't answer him. She didn't have to, because deep down she already knew what mattered most. As she drove away, the envelope sat heavy in her bag, a silent reminder that life isn't always about what's right or wrong. Sometimes it's about surviving. But as city lights blurred through her tears, one thought burned brighter than the fire she'd escaped that morning. Appearances lie. And the truth, it's never simple. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't clear-cut. People wear masks, and the truth hides behind money, fear, and power. But courage isn't about saving someone once. It's about protecting what matters most, even when the cost is heavy. If you were Clarissa, what would you have done? Would you stay silent to protect your family or risk everything to speak the truth? Let us know in the comments. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories that make you think.